You can turn on your microphone. All right, I'll call this meeting to order. This is the public hearing for the Griest Edition replat. I'm going to try to keep everyone on task tonight because we only have 45 minutes before we have our actual town council meeting. So what the plan is going to be, we'll let Marlo come up first and kind of give us the background on everything. And then if Mr. Griest wants to speak, he can. And then we will start to take public comment. It looks like maybe we have about 10 people on the list. So we're going to give everyone, I'll just kind of estimate, maybe it's going to be a couple minutes each. But if we've kind of heard it over and over, like it'd be nice just to kind of keep it as short and sweet as you can. New information from everyone would be great. Everyone's more than welcome to speak, but let's just try to keep it tight because we do have a tight schedule tonight. But I appreciate everyone coming out. So Marlo, would you like to start us off?
Yes.
If you don't mind turning on the microphone as well, that'd be great.
Red means go.
Red means go.
Okay. Your local police may not appreciate that from me, but anyway. I don't know what maps you have for your digital. Is that the only one, or do we have the map of the edition?
I thought you were going to bring. Oh, geez. Sorry.
I didn't bring anything digital.
Sorry. I don't have.
I lack in that area. Sorry about that.
I can pull it up here, but why don't you go
But
ahead?
that last view is fine too.
Are you fine with the Google Maps view?
If you have ours, that shows the division as well.
I'll see if I can find it here, but
I think we've sent it to you electronically.
yeah. Oh, no, I'm screwed. Marlo?
Sorry, I'm more challenged.
I wasn't given my to-do list, but let me see if I can find it real quick.
Okay.
Okay, sorry. You just, bear with me.
The mayor's looking for it on electronic, so everybody
I
can
don't
see
have
it.
it electronic. I have
You don't?
paper copies.
Well, then you can show them.
We're gonna see if we can.
Three folders in
I've got your. Yeah, those are the ones.
this. Where do you want me to put it, Arnold?
For the council, maybe just roll it out here. And everybody can walk up and look at it. How do you want to turn it?
You're in charge.
North and south.
There you go.
North is up, and you guys are looking at it upside down.
Okay. I'm also gonna try to find it online here. Okay.
That might be a good one for everybody
Okay.
to see.
Come on. All right, Marlo, take it.
You have a newer one than that?
This is Google Earth. This is what they have, but
It doesn't give a proper,
So this is correct me if I'm wrong, this is the Haverburger property right here. This is what we're talking about. This is Three Rivers Meadows. This is Forest Meadows. This is the old Monty Nelson tract, all of this. And this is the property we're speaking of dividing. I think on the county's GIS, it may show it in two different lots of 1 acre each. Is that
No, 2.13 acres each.
two what?
2.13 acres each on the county GIS.
Oh, okay, 2 acres each, excuse me. I don't think the county would show us 2.3 acres altogether.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, 2 acres altogether.
should be
I
one
think it
per plot, yeah. Yeah,
It
each
shows
parcel,
it
yeah.
as two separate 1 acre lots on the
Okay.
GIS.
Yes.
It says 2.13.
So we all know Marlo Sherville, representing Barry Griest in this addition. And this property is located on Nelson Lane, just off of Grays River Road. It is 2 acres in size. It was purchased in 2 separate pieces of 1 acre each, I believe. And we're looking to divide it into 4 lots. Just in speaking to some of the high points, so if you turn to your R1 zone, zoning ordinance, Article 3, let's turn to Section 3-201 or 202, R1 single family residential. I believe if you were to bring up your zoning map, you would find that this is an R1 zone accepted by the town and approved, I assume, about the time that the rules and regs were, which is what, 2017-ish? Is that the latest?
That's the latest, but it was adopted in 2006.
It was originally adopted in 6, and then you made some amendments and changes in 17. And so, and the zoning of this area, is my understanding, didn't change from 2006 into 2017. So since the town did their original land use regulations in 2006, all of this area down here was R1. If you read the R1, and you've probably read Mr. Dunlap's letter, he quotes the first paragraph as to what the intention is. Development and maintenance of low-density residential areas. These regulations are intended to provide a diverse and compatible housing stock, limit the density of the resident population, provide open space, adequate open space and buildings, accessory structures, provide accessibility to community utility systems and common open spaces, encourage safe and attractive living. In his letter, if you turn the next page to item D, it specifies what this town has decided in 2006 that the minimum lot size ought to be for this area in R1. It says under item D, it's labeled minimum lot area. 20,000 square feet, that's about a half an acre, a little less than a half an acre. 20,000 square feet in the following subdivisions: Alpine Estates, Forest Meadows, which is close to here, Grays River Valley, which is north and east of this property up the Grays River Road, Alpine Estates number 1. Then it says 15,000 square feet in the following subdivisions: Grays River Village number 1, Lakeview Estates 6th edition, which is just up the street by Lodge Lane, Bridger Homes, which is across Grays River Road from this particular property, and Alpine Meadows. And then it says 10,000 square feet in the following subdivisions. These are minimum lot sizes, not maximum. Riverview Meadows, which is west part of town, Lakeview Estates 3rd and 7th edition, Palace Park 2nd edition, and Grays River Village number 2. 9,900 square feet in all other subdivisions. Now let's understand, this is called, originally in 1965, if you were to look at the original Lakeview Estates plat, you would see this 5 acres labeled Monty Nelson Tract. And I happen to have a copy. That's a very large map, so I only brought a copy. I'll pass to the council. This was in 1965, and the land that we're talking about on that plat in 1965 is this land right here. Everything that Monty owned.
He owned all the way to the Grays Road.
Thank you.
You're saying he owned all of this down here?
No, that's National Forest.
That's right.
Give
This is National Forest.
Give him have a burger.
No, he owned right there. I just read the deed. It
This-
starts 330 feet. So my fact is that Haberburgers was not part of Monty Nelson. It was actually owned partially by the Wyoming Game and Fish. So that, in 1965, the tract that we're talking about was created, okay? It's not part of any of the subdivisions I just read. It's not part of Three Rivers. It's not part of Forest Meadows, Bridger Homes, Grays River Village. It's a standalone tract on its own, and it was divided into a few pieces. Obviously, the ones that Griest has, the one next to it to the east, I believe is Rankin now, and somebody else, and the rest of it is still in the Nelson family, I believe. Is that right?
Correct.
But keep me factual here. So, in your regs, the property that Mr. Griest picked up could be 10,000 square foot lots. Actually, 9,900 could be the minimum size. We looked at the area, and Barry looked at the area and said, I don't want to do high density. That's like Lakeview Estates on the hill. Those are 10,000 square foot lots with 20-foot roads. So we chose to be compatible with the area. If you look at the subdivisions within a quarter mile of this, which is Forest Meadows, Three Rivers, Grays River Village, Bridger Homes, they're all in about the half-acre density size. That would be, if I can approach again.
Sure.
This is all Forest Meadows, this is Three Rivers, this is Grays River Village, Bridger Homes is up here in the trees, little cul-de-sac. And if you look at those plats, they're anywhere from 4/10 to 6/10. I'm gonna call them an average of 5. And so as we looked at this property, same area, we decided to make it very compatible. Larger lots. Actually, a half-acre lot in the town of Alpine is a fairly large lot. If you look at the majority of the lots, you'll find that they're 10,000 square feet, or approximately in that area. So when we look at the rules and ordinances that you've written, this complies completely with setbacks, height restrictions on buildings, everything. Height restrictions aren't shown on a plat, but the building permit phase will take care of that. But lot size, area for snow removal, off-street parking, all of that is allowed, and it's very, very compatible. I mean, it matches everything within a quarter mile of it, except for the National Forest, because there's no development on the National Forest. The Monty Nelson tract created, it was further divided after the 5 into what it shows now. There were no covenants restrictions. Had Mr. Nelson wanted some restriction so that this was going to be 2-acre lots or 5-acre lots, 1 5-acre or 5 1-acre lots, he could have done that. He could have had a set of covenants and said, I'm going to limit this property. He didn't, and so the town did in 2006 and said, we're going to call it R1. It needs to be similar to the compatible lots that have already been platted here. Remember that most of these subdivisions we're talking about were already platted in the county before Alpine became a town. And so they were approved, because there was a water system, they were approved at the density they were. Nelson Lane is a public street. It's titled to the town of Alpine. In 1983, the United States Forest Service granted an easement to Lincoln County. In 1989, the county granted that same easement to the town of Alpine after they had become a town, so that it became a town road. I don't know how it's been maintained by the town, but it is designated in the records, the land records, as a public street. The last development that we did in dividing property was if you'll zero back in there, the Hardenberger property right here was kind of a boundary adjustment more than anything else. They had a lot, and then there was a game of fish homes right in here. It doesn't show that on Google. And they picked that part of the game and fish and added it into their land. It's less than a half acre in size, very small lot. And they took it and made 2 lots, and you can see it on this plat right here. They're both, one's 5/10 of an acre, half an acre, one's 0.59. So, and this was approved by the town in 2011, recorded in the courthouse in 2012. So the latest approval that you've had, and I don't remember any objections to this one when I presented it back those years ago. It's compatible with the area. It made it more compatible. The small lot that the state of Wyoming had grew and was added to some, and it made it better and more compatible to the area. And that's what the town approved, and your mayor's signature, the mayor, I don't remember who it was in 2012, but he signed the plat and approved it. As far as I can see, this development follows all of your rules. It could have had 8 lots. We've decreased it so it's compatible with the area, so that it fits the scale of everything. The compatibility is an important function for Mr. Griest. It follows all the rules that have been written for R1 zone. And in Mr. Dunlap's letter, I enjoyed the comment that he said, this is not arbitrary and capricious if you approve this. And I'm telling you that if you don't approve something that is compatible with your rules, you are definitely being arbitrary and capricious, because you set the rules, landowners buy according to those rules and expect to be able to develop within those rules, unless you choose to change them, which I have not seen any change that I'm aware of since 2012, when your rules were last amended, 17, excuse me, to change anything here. This land was open. Many of the neighbors here are saying, we really like that open space there. It's been there for years. Let's keep it open space. And my point, I guess, is something that I've kind of lived by is, if you want to own and control some property, or zone and control property, you need to own it. They had a chance. They could have opened it and left it open space.
Never got a chance.
I'm not the realtor here. I would appreciate you talking to whoever was selling the property, and I don't know whether it was Nelson's or somebody else. I think it had already been sold to Zabornik, maybe, if I'm right. My memory. Anyway, it was there available, and Barry bought it and is now looking at making something very, very compatible to the rules of the town, and what you have set up in 2006 have not changed in 2007, and it's still here for us to do. I think it's very compatible. It fits. It's on a public street. We are not asking for any variance to your rules. And so with that, I would recommend that this board, when it goes to vote, that it votes to approve this addition to the town. I'd be glad to answer any questions from the council, and I can be called up to answer questions later in the meeting.
Appreciate it. Does anyone have any questions for Marlo before he steps away?
Probably swing back around too.
Okay?
So next we'll start in on the public comment, and it looks like we'll have enough time, about 2 minutes a person. And I'll just give you a gentle nudge when we're getting close, just to finish up your thought or whatever. But first one on the list is Leslie Parkin.
How many are there?
There's about 10, less than 10, I think.
Oh, good morning, I mean, afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and council and other. As what he has been stating, that all things were covered by the law. First thing is, I wanted to start out by, we didn't want the road Nelson Lane cut for putting water service in. What would be the desirable method is to broach it so we don't have runway ditches going on into that property. Now, he mentioned that they did a water test that where the waters would all saturate into the ground before it would ever leave. But we have another situation, is why I mentioned earlier, this picture is of a long time ago, before the city of Alpine went in and changed the configuration of it and made a parking lot and put down a hard pan. That water runs off onto those properties, and because of that, it does not run out to the far end of it because the grass has never been cut. And because of the fluid drag going through the bushes and that, it will sink into the grass, into the ground. Secondly, the part about Nelson Lane. The document that I have was signed in, it was to be put in, they applied for it in 1964. And in this document states that the people that are going to come onto it, that they have to have and meet the requirements so that the forest is not liable for anything. So what we suggested is that his settling ponds be French drains. The water that comes out of the forest into the ditches end in a French drain. And the easements that he is planning, I still have no idea why this would be, as he has it right on my property line, which is 514, the address on Nelson Lane.
Mr. Parkin, that's been 2 minutes, so try to finish up your thought.
Okay, the thought is I'm against it because he has not addressed the full potential of liabilities of water and for the mosquitoes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Dunlap is next. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Town Council. I represent the Parkins, who are directly to the east. Couple of things. My clients have never met Mr. Griest. I've never met Mr. Griest, so none of this is personal. We are opposing this proposal, and there's a few reasons why. First off, I would like to say your very competent council has told you, I'm sure, that when you make these decisions, when you have these proposals in front of you, you have to have a reason for your decision one way or the other. Zoning is unique. It's when the state or the government tries to tell people what they can do with their personal property. It creates contention. We try to write regulations that dictate how and what the state is trying to do to regulate that use of property. We cannot write a regulation for everything. And it is written in a statute that these things come before you. Why do they come before you? We could have a clerk just rubber stamp it. Just because they've checked the boxes does not mean that we rubber stamp it. You have discretion. You have the ability to determine whether this is good. Zoning is health, safety, and welfare. That's the standard of zoning. So you get to determine whether this proposal adds to or is adverse to the health, safety, and welfare of Alpine. So specifically, the R1 zone in this particular area, it's not in a subdivision. As Mr. Shervill pointed out, he talked about all the lot sizes in 2006. It does not say in there that this land should be 10,000 feet. He kind of glossed over that. That's not what that says. It says it could be, but it's not what it does not say this land. It's talking about general terms. It talks about specific neighborhoods and the regulation for those neighborhoods. This isn't in any of those. This does not have a lot size assigned to it. And so just so we're clear on that. But the R1 zone specifically says, and he quoted it for me, so I appreciate him doing that. Saves me a little time. But low density residential areas. When you take 2 and you divide it and you make 4, that's kind of going the other direction. That's not low density, that's increasing density. And that's specifically what this says. As you look at these lots, they're all 1 acre size on Nelson Lane. Yes, we recognize it butts up to other neighborhoods, But these lots are 1 acre, and there was a reason for that. It was by design. Finally, I just want to point out, because the mayor's getting antsy, he's about to he's going to hit the button.
Soon.
He's going to hit the drop. We're all aware of the housing crisis that we're having. I just want to make sure that this is not something, this does not contribute to the housing problem that we have. These lots are going to be 250, 300. And so people who are contributing to Alpine are not going to be able to afford these lots. They don't work at Brolam's or St. John's or the sheriff's department. They're going to be either second homeowners, they're going to be out-of-towners escaping metropolitan cities, or we're going to get the rental situation where 4 people rent it and drive to Jackson to work. So let's be clear, that doesn't address that. That's not what we're doing. We actually go the opposite. We're going to have these people using services and not contributing.
Last thought.
Sure, I appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor. And you clearly are going to set a precedent. If you allow this one, then all the other homeowners can come in and you're going to have to approve it. And maybe that's your desire, maybe that's what you want. But it's going to be a clear precedent that allows that, that increases that density, and we run into the same issue. Thank you all for your time.
Next is James Rogers.
First, I would like to complain about the limited amount of time to speak.
Thank you.
Over half the time was taken by the proposal, and I get 2 minutes. I have spent probably 2 weeks, hundreds of hours doing research here. I have data on the issue he raised about housing and the impact that will have on specifically short-term rentals and how that will impact this decision. I have pages of information on how this replat will affect the economy in this area, because I've talked to probably 20, 25 people in the community, and the only reason any of them gave me why they thought this should be approved for the benefit of the citizens was because it would bring in money. I've talked to economists, I've done research on the web, I've researched real estate and community economic analytics, and I have specific data I would love to have time to share with you of exactly how much impact will accrue to the citizens here. And I can tell you straight up, if you've heard a dollar spent in the community circulate 7 times, that's a myth. It's completely wrong. The second thing I wanted to address was that issue about short-term rentals and who can afford that property. Again, I've done a market analysis, and I can tell you straight up front, from my reading of the assumptions from the houses that are going to be built there, you're looking at about $700,000. For the property, it's going to require $160,000 annual income for somebody to buy this. And so I have research, a lot of it, about who are the potential buyers. And the third item, which is probably the most important, he says it completely complies with all city regulations. I've found 2 cases where they do not apply. One is it's creating flag lots, which I had to do some research on, and I'd love to share with you why they are, in many municipalities, rejected, why your zoning laws say specifically it is discouraged, and that you can only build one when it is deemed necessary. Again, coming back to legal issues, there's a lot of questions there that I'd like to see answered before you go forward with that. The third issue is access to those lots. I'm not worried about the size of the lots. I'm worried about that little narrow driveway to get down there and the potential for tragedy, death, and injuries, not only to the people who live back there, but neighbors and other people in the community, and how that could impact the community with lawsuits that there's a good possibility you would lose. That relates back to the issue of fire road access, which is skirted over and avoided and hoodwinked so that we look in a different direction. If that center lane there is going to be determined to be a fire access, then it's required that it be maintained. It's required that it be maintained in such condition that a fire truck can drive down there and then back all the way out if it needs to go somewhere else because no turnaround is put in. They say no turnaround is required, and it's probably not if that road is determined to be a fire access road. But that means it has to be properly maintained to support the load of that vehicle. It doesn't say, I have the fire code that the city has said they agree to. It doesn't say that the road has to be less than 150 feet like it implies to be a fire access. So that has to do with whether or not there's a cul-de-sac there. What it says is the fire truck has to be within 150 feet access of all the exterior walls of those buildings. My calculations, we don't have enough information, but my calculation shows that's not going to be the case. So when he says it meets all requirements, I disagree completely. Third
Give us
thing,
your final thought, please.
my final thought is there are some political considerations that the city needs to address before you move forward with this. And I would recommend that if you don't reject this, you table it, give the community more time, give me time to share all that data with you before you make this, because there's a good chance that this decision to approve it that could last for hundreds of years could come back and bite the citizens, cost
Thank you,
us a
sir.
lawsuit.
Mr. Corsai?
You sure you want to hear this?
Sure.
Yes?
Gerbil, I appreciate all your information, but where do you live? You should stay there. We're not talking about any of the lots around in all of Alpine. We're talking about my dad's 3 lots, 4 lots. That's what we're talking about. That's a premium lots in this town. Tell me they're not.
I don't know whether they are or not, I'm not.
They are premium lots because they're big lots.
See, do you want me to?
Mr. Corsai, you could just address everyone up here.
We're the decision makers.
I think it's a screw up, cutting that up. Monty Nelson done that for a reason. Monty Nelson was one of the first forefathers in this town. There is a day in Alpine named Monty Nelson. He done them lots for a reason. He knew what he had. There's no way anybody can ever build above those lots. They're premium. I like going outside and pissing off my backyard. I don't want some 25 people in homes down the street checking it out. I disagree with what's happening. If he wants to put homes on it, he should put 1 home per acre. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for coming. Oh, jeez. I'm gonna butcher this next one. David, I can't read your last name. Sorry. David Burchard. Bouchard? Why does it start with a D? That's your handwriting. Go ahead.
Okay, so I've heard several people mention how, this isn't personal and we don't want to take it personal against Barry or anything like that. Unfortunately, that's just not reality. This is personal. This is my home that I bought 20 plus years ago, and we had an idea of what we were buying into. We looked around, we looked at the freedoms afforded to people in Alpine, the space, the open space that we liked, and we looked at the lots behind us and in front of us. We bought our home from Tom Zabornik. He owned those lots behind me. He owns the lots in front of me. I had an opportunity to buy it the day I bought the house, but I couldn't afford it. When I could afford it, I went back to him and said, hey, I'd love to take you up on that offer and buy it. And he said, I'm sorry, it's part of a family trust. They can't be sold. They've been put into a family trust. And so I quit bugging the man because why? The day I found out they were for sale, I contacted well, I won't say who, but I contacted a real estate agent and said, I'll throw some cash on top of that. I didn't know it was for sale. I'd like to buy it. And she said, it's already done. And all of my neighbors that I've spoken to felt the same way. Everybody would have loved to have purchased that, didn't have a chance. Now, I don't believe that anything nefarious or illegal was done there, but just as an explanation of why that wasn't purchased by people that would have liked to have seen it stay open space or have larger homes that were built there. I have 6 short reasons why I want to oppose this. The first I've given you. When I bought my property, I expected those to be large 1-acre homes, and I knew how that could affect property values in the future, my enjoyment. When 4 people build onto that property, that means 4 more lawnmowers going, probably 8 more vehicles starting up, idling in the winter. You know, it's just more density, and I don't think anybody in this room wants more density. You know, everybody thinks somebody should have it and somebody should build homes for lots of people to move here, but nobody wants it next to them. We all understand that. Nobody wants that. The illustration provided in their proposal on page 10 puts the proposed structure in lot 2 directly adjacent to my lot, only 37 feet from the corner of my building, of my home. The same illustration shows the corner of that building will actually be several feet over the existing sewer line. I don't see that sewer line notated on his illustrations, but I know where it is. I was there when it was dug, when it was put in. Every adjacent landowner to this property has expressed in writing or in person their opposition to this replat. Yet none of us have been contacted to address our concerns. Not from the town, but from Barry or the developers. If I'm wrong, speak up now. I've spoken to most of my neighbors and stayed in touch. I don't believe anyone has been contacted and had their concerns addressed. We were all here. We spoke before town council, numerous letters. I've read all of them. There's no support by anybody that lives adjacent of that. And yet he's not contacted a single one of us to try and address those issues, to try and explain, to work with us. None.
Trying to wrap it up.
If this is approved today, you can expect more requests to do the same from other potential landowners and developers. And somebody down the road, a future town council, is going to be asking, why did they do this? Why the heck did they do this? I don't understand. And you're not going to be here to have to defend that, but somebody is. Last point. If Mr. Griest wanted to develop 4 half-acre homes, he should have purchased 4 half-acre lots. There are plenty of them.
Amanda Rogers?
Came up, took about 4 hours to get up here from
Thanks for
be here
coming.
today. Glad to be here. We're on 514 Nelson and also 312 Grays River Road. Some of my concerns, other people have touched base on important stuff already, but I've come to learn that Alpine is known for having the world's largest elk up in the National Forest. We have a very unique area right there with animal welfare and animal passage. I've seen, and I have recordings on my phone, of cows, elk, horses, deer that cross through that property. We've had the most amazing mobs and stuff fly through at night. We have a lot of nocturnal animals and stuff that we also have to think about. Birds' migratory patterns, ecological protections, harmful light pollution that is going to happen when we have 4. If you were to proceed with that, you would have a lot of light pollution. And that does affect the animals that are living right across the street in the National Forest. There's a few different concerns that I have. I do highly recommend maintaining the open space. It is a premium. There has always been an understanding, whether or not it's been grandfather or zoned as such. It's always been an understanding that these are big lots. My parents, when they've pursued permits and are just interested in permits and stuff, they have been told, you know, these are large lots, and we've respected that. I know that Jim has respected that, and we want to maintain, you know, if they have a parcel of land, stick their house on it, and then allow the animals to come and graze and go through. That's what makes it really special to be at the mouth of the national forest. Like literally right in front of my parents' house, there's these bushes and stuff. They actually don't belong to us. There is a stake that used to be there, and I don't know why it's been moved, but I have a picture of it from 2018 that says that it is national forest, and it's right there, right in front. So I'd be glad to show you guys what I have. Another thing I'm concerned about, I was reading the documents, it talks about the buildings being 35 feet tall. So having 2 buildings that are 35 feet tall, that's one thing. But these neighbors that are further up where they bought their property and it was purchased as a mountain view, they're actually going to have a drop in their property value because you're supposedly going to have 4 35-foot tall homes packed in there. If you read his documents, that's what's there. Fire protection, flag lots, parking. The big one, though, is for me personally is the light pollution. I don't know how many of you have gone out and wanted to show people how amazing, when you don't have a full moon, you have a new moon, and it is just so dark and serene, and it's beautiful, and we need to maintain that. And so whatever we can do, I vehemently oppose the 4. I'm okay with 2.
Thanks for coming. Jace, you're up next. We've got time for a couple more here.
I think I can be pretty brief. I brought the lot backing up to that knowing that those were 2 one-acre lots right behind me. I looked at several other pieces of property in Alpine whenever we were looking at purchasing, and a significant driver was having those large lots behind me so there wouldn't be as many houses built near me. There would be more space because most people don't want to maintain a huge long driveway. So most likely someone was going to build on the far side of that lot. And that was a huge driver for me in terms of why we bought where we did there here in town. We knew we were going to be in Alpine, but we had a choice in where we picked. And my understanding was at the time, and not a lawyer, that it was very hard to change lots after they were put in. So I didn't think I had to be concerned that those were going to be broken up or turned into apartment structures or anything else. Apparently that's not as hard as I understood it to be. So I think that's unfortunate because I bought knowing what I was near, and apparently I didn't know what I was near if the town decides that we can arbitrarily resize lots. Yeah, that's what I've got. I would oppose this.
Thank you.
Thanks, Luke and Jessica, I guess.
I'll just speak.
Okay, thanks.
I didn't know what I just thought I was signing in.
No, it's okay.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, of course. So, hi, thanks everyone for having me and hearing me out. My name's Luke Astle. I'm a resident with my wife Jessica at 440 Meadows Drive. We're just adjacent or diagonal from the lots that are being discussed this evening. I'm also representing my father and the LLC that I'm a part of, where we own lot just below us on Meadows, and then the lot on the far end of Nelson Lane, the end of Jimmy's property there as well. I know that we're trying to keep this, have some brevity to this, and so I know a lot of the points that have been brought up tonight I would just like to echo and say that I am in alignment and agreement with everything that everybody stated, and that I'm not necessarily in favor of breaking these lots up into 4 lots, and with the representing 3 separate lots, I hoping that has some weight in some of your decision. But the lots that we've had and the property that we live in now, belonged to my grandmother. We have some history here over, 40 years, and the lots that we've got in that LLC have been in the family for 30 years. And knowing that one lot on the end was 1 acre, and I think that was part of the decision there on that, is knowing that those lots would also be 1 acre. So aside from everything else that everybody's spoken about, I think the only other thing that hasn't been mentioned, and maybe it's not necessarily an issue, but something I had a question on, was just regarding the amount of water usage, just to draw into the homes, and the amount of water that was going to be discharged from the homes and just into the city sewer. I'm not sure if that study was done necessarily by the developers or if there was a third party, but if it was a third party, I guess I'm more comfortable with that. But it seemed like the usage was higher than maybe was going to be discharged. And my concern is we have not yet tied into the city sewer, but being the way that the sewer flows, I'd be concerned of any, over usage of the sewer and potential backups and that sort of thing that could cause some issues with homeowners down the line from these properties. So those are my statements, and appreciate you guys hearing me out. Thanks.
Thanks, Luke. Is there anyone else that wanted to speak? You have one last chance before we recess. Well, thank you, everyone, for coming. Yes, sir.
What's the intention of the council? To vote at tonight's meeting, or vote now, or?
In the next meeting, we're not voting now. This is just the public hearing. In the next meeting, it's on the agenda, and there's a potential that a vote could happen tonight. So I suggest you stick around, unless you have somewhere else to be, but it seems like a pretty important topic. Yes?
I told you that I have some photos that I'd like to show you.
Absolutely. And then will we have time for, I don't know if we have a representative from P&Z who is going to speak tonight to answer some of the questions that were brought up?
Well, Christine's here, for sure. Yeah.
Oh, okay, but
I'm not a decision maker.
that's okay. You matter too. So it's just animals that.
That's my house.
Okay.
So I'm aware.
I haven't met you. I'm sorry.
No, that's no problem. You can just.
And just right in front of my parents' property.
And this was the one that was removed. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it should not have been, because it's staked in the ground, and right in front of it is actually the road they're saying is public.
What's that?
We that goes with them, I just because my understanding is it is.
Okay.
When you reached out to National Forest, did they give you any type of response?
I haven't done anything because I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was going to be said today, so I just thought, I'll just show you what I have. But this is, so the yellow behind is the terrace.
Is it okay if I go
And his family. And then this is just an example. I took a screenshot from back in like 2020. And I just have tons of like elk come through and stuff. So it's like, we're maintaining that and they feel comfortable coming in. And it's a safe, dark sky environment and stuff. And I looked up, learning more about wildlife. I have a lot to learn. And I'll find that Alpine is a nice sky. Yeah,
I'm just down on Forest, so I'm just a little bit further.
I'm going to recess the public meeting, and then we're going to take just a couple-minute break and then get into our actual town council. So if you guys want, you can turn off. You can turn that off.
Yeah, right?
We never had any like I said, I live right there in my backyard. I went out yeah, and I don't know how that changed.
think by the time you called them, they were already sold. I don't know quite how that went so quick.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't get the sale.
Phones. We're gonna,
I gotta get your, oh, 500.
you can go ahead and turn on your microphones. I'm gonna call this meeting to order. This is, Town of Alpine Town Council meeting on October 17th. A little bit after 7 o'clock, but we're close.
7:50.
First things first, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone, for sticking around. This is great to have people in the seats. First thing on the agenda is the consent agenda. Did everyone have a chance to go?
You
over
gotta do roll call.
I'm sorry,
That's
Monica. I'm jumping the shark. Go ahead.
Councilman Larson.
Here.
Councilman Dickerson. Here. Mayor Green.
Here.
Councilman Castillo.
Here.
And Councilman Burchard.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum of the council with all present.
Thank you. Did everyone have a chance to look at the consent agenda?
Yes.
Yes.
Any changes or anything? Everyone's fine with that? Do we have a motion on the table?
Motion for approval of consent agenda?
Second.
We have a motion. It's been seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. We'll go right into reports. Really don't have much to report. Let me move this down just a little bit. Okay. I did want to let everyone know that I appreciate the feedback that we've been getting on the potential new cell tower. I'll give you a quick background on how this came about. Obviously, anyone that lives in the area knows we have spotty coverage in the summer especially. And I had tried to make inroads with Verizon, who is my carrier, couldn't get with anyone or couldn't make any headway. And then I talked to Senator Dockstetter, and he made some introductions, and we ended up finding some people that are interested in putting a cell tower, new cell tower in Alpine. So things have kind of happened, not real quickly, but relatively quickly. We were considering putting it on the agenda for tonight, and that was kind of our intent, but we found out that these things end up taking so long, it could take a couple years to get it going, and it probably wouldn't happen before next summer when we have all the issues. So we're like, let's just kind of slow it a little bit, get some more information and research done, and we decided that we're going to put it on the agenda for the work session on December 5th?
Correct.
Okay. So December 5th, we're going to hopefully have an engineer here or somebody that can join via Zoom that can answer some questions for us. And basically, they have already kind of specified a few places where they would like to see the cell tower. And some of them, they're getting it. It's slow in the process because they're trying to deal with the government, trying to work with Fish and Game, trying to work with other federal agencies, and it's kind of slow. So they were excited to hear that Alpine's interested in maybe partnering with them. So we hope to have a lot more information, but definitely if you're interested or have an opinion on whether we should put a cell tower in a certain place, we'd love to have that information and feedback from you at the work session meeting on December 5th. Jorgensen, no one's here, but they did give us a report.
They submitted a report,
Okay.
and it's scanned with the packet.
Okay, so if anyone wants to read the report, they're more than welcome to read the engineering report. Planning and zoning, Mo, were you going to do that? Yep. Okay, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, I had Rex's.
So at our last planning and zoning committee meeting, we had quite a few things going on. Some decks repairs, still some retaining wall go through. We did have some issues with some new businesses that were going in that needed some inspections, so they're working on that. Some re-roofing projects. The signs at Cobblestone, I believe we permitted those. They're all ready to roll. We did express a little bit of concern on their monument sign. It was a little close to the grades. It's off 5 foot, I think it was. It's away from the main road, but we all know how tall our snowbanks get here. So that was one of our concerns that we brought up to them on what we can do. But they're under their sign limit on how many square footage their signs are and whatnot. So
Were they receptive to your feedback?
yeah, but there's not a whole lot they can do. So even if even if it's a monument sign, and even if they raised it up a little bit, made it a little bit taller, it's going to put them above their signage limit.
Right.
So we just made sure and reiterated in the minutes that if there was any issues, if the sign got damaged due to snow removal, the town's not going to be liable, of course, unless somebody hits it, like runs into it or whatever. So that was one of our big concerns with that sign. Let's see, we're going through a lot of questions on some of the ideals that we went through with the Architectural Review Committee. We needed to address that and I think we ended up tabling that until we can get a little bit more information to add to the Land Use Development Code. I think that's about it that I could tell from what my meetings and my notes are that I've got.
Okay.
I don't know if there's any questions.
There been anything that's come across your desk on the potential development for Steve Turley?
Steve Turley, I don't think so, sir. But I don't have all of my notes in front of me, but I don't think so. Not that I'm aware of. Where would this be located at?
This is the land located up above the.
Oh,
This is
no,
the
not
40
yet.
acres up on the hill.
Yeah, no, not yet. I just barely got a little bit of a scuttlebutt about that
Yeah.
just yesterday. So I don't have any intel about that just yet, but I was told that we'll have that information at our next meeting, so.
Mo, under the Land Use Development Code improvement, I know it said dark skies, but did we have any specifications? Did we have any guidelines?
Nope, we don't have any guidelines on that. And I personally am doing some more research on that as well. I'm a little curious on how that rolls. But we don't have anything, we just downcast light, not above, not up-facing lights and all that, what we've already got.
Right.
So a lot of our permits and whatnot show that they have to be down-facing lights anyway.
Okay.
And I believe they have lumen.
Yeah, we do have some lumen restrictions as well, yes, sir.
We've had lots of feedback, or I've received feedback from people that are really interested in that topic.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think it's totally reasonable to expect a ordinance coming through regarding dark skies.
And I agree with that. I think there are some things that we should also take into consideration. Quite a few years ago, we had some thieveries, let's say, in our wonderful little town here. And I'd asked our chief of police, James Phillips, at that time, I says, man, what can we do? What do I need to do to keep this from happening in my neighborhood? And he says, Mo, I've been down your street at 3 o'clock in the morning. Y'all need some lights.
Yeah.
So that is also, we also need, and I get this dark skies and I understand all of that, but we also need to keep in mind that we need to keep our safety of our citizens and all of us
Yeah.
in front of mind as well.
Yeah.
It's a tough balancing act.
It is.
Because obviously we've heard tonight that people are very interested in the dark skies, but safety is of our utmost concern. We've actually tried to get lights for bus stops for kids. And I know my kids are in high school now, but I've been taking them for, however many years to the bus stop, and it's completely dark this time of year. So it's always dangerous.
Yep, absolutely.
And you'd be surprised. You cannot get lighting for bus stops if it has to do with kids or schools. It's crazy.
That is interesting.
So, but we're definitely, just so everyone knows, we're constantly looking for ways to fund that, because obviously we don't have the funds to do that ourselves. But
Right.
Those are just a few of the things that we're working on.
Well, and I mean, even as a woman walking out to your car late at night, I mean, it is only Alpine and it is Wyoming, so we all are covered. But, walking out to your dark car at night,
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that we've all been taught.
I would definitely recommend.
Even out here.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I
Motion
have a flashlight
sensor
on my
lights.
person right now as we speak.
Motion sensor lights, I think, are key for something
Yes,
like that. So I
absolutely.
would recommend that if I put them at my house and I just love
Me
them
too.
because, even if it's a little dusk, those lights come on, it works great, so.
Yep.
Any other questions for Mo? All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Mo.
Councilman Larson, we'll jump right into your triumvirate.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the interest of time, do you mind if I just
Roll through 'em.
go through them?
Yep.
Great. So economic development update. There is no economic development update. The county's still working on their lodging board, their travel and tourism board. So until they have that set up, that's when they'll come back to economic development board, and then I'll have an update. Utility easement up on the hill. Currently, we've sent in all the easements that we have signed, all the signed easements to the county. We have received 29 back from the county, so we'll go up through follow-up with those 29, or excuse me, we received 12 back from the county, and we'll go follow up through those, what needs to be done with those applications. We currently have 29 applications unsigned and working on that. LVE has been up this week prepping for digs to bury the power lines up there, and they're working on that as we speak. Jumping into tourism board, we had our October meeting last week, 2 weeks ago, the 5th anyway. And with that, we approved one application from the town of Alpine for signage for a snowmobile corridor in the wintertime. And we're still waiting on other funds from the county. And then we're also working on the first application for 2024, 2025 will be entered in January 1 through February 15th. Then we'll meet again in March and review applications for those who have projects, events that can be funded through the travel and tourism, that's the lodging tax. And then also the board is a 3-member board. Each member serves 1 year, 2 year, and 3 year. So the board member serving the 1 year, his 1 year is up. He will not be renewing it. If you're interested in becoming a board member, please submit a application of your interest with travel and tourism. The town of Alpine, need to be an Alpine resident, to Melody at the town, and then the mayor will go through those and
We'll be selecting someone to join the board.
Yep. And then he'll bring that to the council on the December meeting, so we can vote that person in for the following year. Other than that, that's it for those. Any questions? Phil?
So you mentioned that there's 29 easements left to be signed for the utility upgrades from Lower Valley and Silver Star Communications. Have they identified the critical path to begin installing the main trunk? And have we identified that all of those easements are in place?
Yes and no. They're following the main trunk. That's what LVE is kind of piggybacking on right now. But they haven't got it all the way to the top of Sunset Drive for a true pathway. So whether or not they have that pathway yet, no, but they could. The 29, I know part of the 29 from the preliminary pathway isn't part of it. So, yes.
Okay.
There is 1, 2 places that I'm still waiting to hear on.
And then you mentioned easements through the county. Can you elaborate on what easements through the county need to be submitted and signed?
Just the paperwork was off.
So
For-
Melanie submits it to the county for recording,
Yeah.
to record them onto their properties. Yeah.
Yeah, so once it's just that,
Memorialized.
once it's signed from the town then submits it to the county for recording. And then if the application's all on up and up and the county's approves it, then they record it, send it back to us. So there's 12 that the county, for one reason or another, didn't approve. I know half of them, they needed original death certificates from those that have since passed. the spouse has passed. So we'll be going back for getting original death certificates for the county.
So as far as you know, both Silver Star and Lower Valley Energy are set to begin burying at the beginning of next year?
No. I mean, I haven't got that confirmed. That's the hope, that's the plan. LVE is already, as you know, they're already doing their digging up there for the transfer stations to bury everything. But as LVE said, you know, we're going to start June 1. No, they would like to. Everybody's on board to get it even before that. They want to get going once the snow melts. Yep.
Thanks, Councilman Larson.
Yeah.
Good job. All right, so we're going to go right into action items. First one up is the replat for the Griest addition. I know we want to have some discussion. I'm fine starting with discussion, and then we can move into a motion if one comes up.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
just for clarity for the public, that what we are discussing is the Town of Alpine Resolution Number 2023-517, a resolution to adopt a replat of the Griest addition to the Town of Alpine, and then it goes on to give a lot of various details about the property that I'm not going to read it. So, okay.
And basically, this would mean that we are accepting the proposal that was
If you
given to us.
choose, yes.
Okay. Councilman Burchard, I think you were going to recuse yourself, so I appreciate you. Thank you for doing that. Does anyone have
Mr. Mayor?
any initial? Yes,
Can I make a motion?
if you'd like to, yes.
Make a motion for seeking approval of resolution number 2023-516 annexation petition. Excuse me.
You're on the wrong.
Jumped on the wrong one. Seeking approval for resolution 2023-517 replat, Griest addition.
Second.
We have a motion, it's been seconded. Any discussion?
So I have some questions.
Yes,
Is
please.
now the time
Yes,
to ask
now's
those?
the time.
Okay. It sounds like there's still some surveying questions. You heard them. Are those things that you can elaborate on today or perhaps clarify? Especially when it comes to driveway infringement?
Glad to answer any specific ones. I didn't hear, were they engineering or surveying that you're talking?
They were surveying.
Okay.
Yes.
So
So
what were those questions if you'd ask?
maybe it would be best for me to pull up.
Was it, there was some question about what was presented, looked like it overlaid a little bit onto someone else's property.
Their driveway.
No.
What was your address? Who was speaking to me about that?
Dave?
Okay.
Nothing is on anybody else's property. We can't do it that way. Go ahead, Dave.
I think the question was regarding sheet 10. There was an exhibit on sheet 10, which was the drainage.
Can you give us your name, please? Sir?
Oh, yes. Dave Kennington, Sunrise Engineering. Sheet 10, the exhibit on that sheet is a drainage exhibit, and that is purely conceptual. It's just saying there's going to be an impervious area here. It could be roof, it could be patio, it could be sidewalk, but there's going to be this impervious area. So it was not attempting to place a structure or anything like that.
Okay.
Structures would all have to be built based on setbacks, the current R1 zone of the town.
Right.
And so those conceptuals, when you come in for a building permit, that's all verified, and you have a certificate of placement also that requires those buildings to be on the proper lot. And that's certified by a surveyor or an engineer.
So there's been a lot of questions about the driveways and access to those back two lots.
Okay?
Just, do you guys have a rough measurement of how long that driveway would be before it, like,
How rough would you like it? It's 148.15 feet.
to this,
From the north side of Nelson Lane to where the.
Okay. And then the driveway would come off this way or this
Yeah.
way?
Our concept is instead of having, I mean, you could have two driveways, I
Right.
guess.
It doesn't make sense.
But consolidating into one driveway for just two lots makes a lot of sense to me. And so, a typical width of driveway would be less than 20 feet. Usually driveways are probably 16 to 18.
Right.
If they were 20, they're almost 2 lanes of traffic. And YDOTs are 12 foot lanes, and county subdivision roads in the past have been 210s, which is a 20. And so we're looking at something like 16 to 18 here. They could be as wide as 20.
Mhm.
It will have to be paved according to the town's rules. And it would be basically centered, so there'd be lots of room on either side. You'd have 20 feet on, if you had a, let's say it's a 20-foot wide asphalt driveway, then you'd have 20 feet on either side for underground utilities as well as snow. And if you looked at the utility plan.
So from the center of the driveway,
From the
you'd have
center of the
20
driveway.
feet either way for
Now,
ease.
You'd go 10 on either side.
So it's,
okay?
it's not 30? What is,
It's a 60 shared driveway.
okay.
So if you take out 20 out of the middle, you got 20 on the right and 20 on the left, or the east and
Uh-huh.
west. Does that make sense? If you centered it right down this line,
Right.
then there'd be 2/10.
Right,
And that would leave 20 feet on either side for underground utilities and snow. removal,
right, which is plenty.
Which is. plenty.
And it
It's
also
a
squeezes the
county
building envelope just a little bit as far as, if there wasn't 20 on each side, or 30 on each side, basically,
road.
right?
It squeezes these a little bit.
Exactly,
It narrows those lots up, correct.
right, okay.
Yeah, but there is, I mean, they're almost 124
Yeah.
feet wide, which is plenty for setbacks and depending on what size of a home you build.
And all of the lots are over a half an acre, correct?
Oh, I thought they were
Just under-
.47.
They can be with that road in there.
2 are .43,
Okay.
just under a half,
Okay,
and 2 of them are over a half, .64, because they include the flag.
Okay.
okay.
So they average about half.
Okay. Well, because we have a resident here and because we have a surveyor here, would you mind coming forward and asking the question that you asked me that I couldn't answer about the driveway infringement? Now, I do understand, I have one of those homes that I don't know if it was ever surveyed in the near future, and so my lot lines, as I understand them, are probably different than what they would be surveyed as. But if we could just bring some enlightenment to that concern.
Okay, so
Do you mind coming up to the microphone, please? Thanks.
there is an image.
I'm Natalie Parkin Clements. There is an image where originally it just says connections to sewer main. This is one that we were given. They're using the water line monument that is at the edge of our driveway, and it goes back to the back end of the property, so heading north. It overlaps into our property. It bypasses where the gas comes in. Plus, there is a natural berm that has been created there by the previous landowners who also worked for the National Park Services. The images for the driveways as they come in and the way that the residents sit on the properties come very, very close to what their proposed easement is. And if they're 35 feet tall, that will overcast our driveway and turn it into permanent ice during the winter. So that's,
Just to be clear, our land use development code allows for up to a 35.
I understand that.
does not
We're not
necessarily
saying
mean
he can't,
built-
but we're saying 4 of them at 2 set back to back would eliminate natural sunlight being allowed on our property after a certain time during the day, fall to late spring. So that's one concern. Also, our property sits back quite far, as you can see, into and turned on an angle. When Warren had that property built, he was specifically told that that had to be aggregate in order for that home to also be that tall. He could not be too close to Jim because Jim was only allowed to build 22 feet tall because he's within 25 feet of the road. That home was allowed to be larger because it is by rule, the setback that was allowed. Also, he has kept the natural, had kept the natural management of the park services to the front of the property. That, to my understanding, it is added into the property and lot size, but we do not own that. If that makes sense. Like, they say you're accountable for that's the national park easement. So, and it is still labeled, if you Google it, if you know that it's Nielsen's Lane, it'll come up. If I tell my friends to come up and visit me in the winter, they've got to look for the National Park Road. So there's that situation.
Just to be clear, National Forest.
National Forest, yeah, I'm like, we talk to the DNR guys and everything all the time, so they're just getting me mixed up. They're all helping us out.
People scratching their heads.
Yeah, they, also, we've had, part of the situation also is the way that the home is angled is also, they, Warren was handicapped, and it made access to the property easier for him. He did have Parkinson's disease. My mom and my dad are both disabled, and so there is a genuine concern with the ability to enter the property, just even to get our John Deere in there to get it cleared, cleared out. Sometimes we've had to hire him, Jim, to come in and clear it out for us because we can't trench, or we can't even get into the property because of the way that the road has not been taken care of.
So you're referencing more that the town of Alpine is not plowing the road.
There's a bunch that comes up, and we can show you pictures at a later point.
Right.
But the concern is the picture I have, and I can show it to you, where the tree is next to the driveway. On the west side, correct. The image that I have here on my phone shows their property line that was given to me.
Yeah, I don't
following.
know if you can.
I mean,
rely on that necessarily. That's
I
just
understand, but we have to take it that we were sent a paper and we were told that that is their lot size. That is what we are being told is what they want. And that's for an easement. Is that understanding? Or understandable that we are told that that is?
I think it may have just been a misrepresentation.
I understand that as well, that there is always room on both sides. However, my concern is that if that is the easement and they build or they want to take right to that line, with the way that these buildings are 35 feet, they're going to have to figure out how far those shadows cast. And I understand that they are allowed to build on their property. We're not trying to say that they can't, but that is a big shadow where the previous homeowner had to set back further so that they did not do that to the other neighbor.
Right.
And it's just a trying to be nice. It's trying to be nice.
Yeah.
It
And
is.
So
Yeah.
I guess what I would say is I would hope that the developer would be open to suggestions on placement of buildings and things of that nature to work with the neighbors. And
The other is that being that road, it was required on a document that I sent you that it is maintained aggregate. As when it was, I sent her some.
Like it'll never get paved, you mean? What's
The-
your implication?
It's a document that came from the Forest Service and by I can show, I don't know how to describe it.
Marlo, do you know what she's
Do you
saying?
have that, Marlon?
It's this one right here,
Okay.
I think, isn't it?
I don't, here we go.
The 1983 easement.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
I'm not sure what she's pointing to. This is an easement from the forest, U.S. government to the county of Lincoln, and they had some requirements that they have to build a road.
Are you sure that's the same one that you were?
That's one that I had been,
Okay.
okay. There's some from the 90s as well. We have some other documentation, so.
1999 from Lincoln County to the town of Alpine. We only provide that for 1890.
I'm not a lawyer.
No. We just want to make sure.
And we have a fabulous one over there. I just can only make you aware of the items that,
The county, Lincoln County granted the same easement as the forest granted to Lincoln County to the town of Alpine. That's when
Okay, so even when I go on the GIS, it does not necessarily show that.
Because it's an easement.
Well, this is Lincoln
This is
County's.
Lincoln County's.
Wouldn't always believe it.
I know.
So if I click on it, it shows the road. It's not in the town of Alpine, it's in,
It may not be in
Well,
the town of
okay.
Alpine.
but we have
But
the
it was
easement.
Easement granted by the forest on their land for the.
It also has the rules that you need, the conditions are in there almost like what you would call a,
Just a second. Just,
what do they
just
call
a
it,
second.
a commandment?
Yes.
What do they call it, a commandment?
Okay, hold on, just
Yeah.
1 second, everybody. Marlo, go ahead and
Okay.
finish your thought,
Hear
and then,
his
and then we'll come back.
responses.
Because
Okay.
when we have so many people talking,
Oh,
it's impossible to take notes and make minutes, but.
Easement was not granted to private parties. The easement
Granted
was
to the
granted
town.
from the government, the United States government, to Lincoln County then passed it on to the town of Alpine.
Right,
So those entities are the ones that are required to live up to this easement.
right,
It's
Okay.
not to the public or to the private.
private landowners, gotcha.
Now, their property, as shown on this plot, is Nelson Lane. The south line of all of these properties is the north line of Nelson Lane. The easement was granted by the government to downtown of Alpine.
Right.
Is that, am I answering your question or am I making?
Does that answer the question?
That,
that
I
you
think
had?
that,
Part of it, there was also a monument that has been removed.
okay, that was the last
I,
part of my.
and I don't know if we can, deal with that, that's.
Okay,
Property.
I just want, you no, oh, no, not our property. A government stake that I also sent you the picture of,
Okay.
that has the GPS coordinates for it.
You, Marlo, and so you just.
Oh, you sent it to her as well.
I'll answer any questions
Okay.
you have. Someone's removed it. Monuments do get removed.
Yes.
Hold on 1 second.
Dad?
everybody.
Hold on, everybody.
Hey,
We're trying to
folks,
figure out one thing at a
Just-
time.
Just a second, folks. Okay. It's very important. We are recording this so that we have a record, okay? And it's very important that
Are you
we
showing it?
only have one person talking at a time, so if we do get in some sort of Donnybrook, we can understand what's going on, okay? So,
This is the GPS information from that photograph that shows where those stakes were.
Okay.
Okay.
So those stakes are set by the Forest Service surveyor.
Right.
They're within a foot of the line. It's
whether
within
that was
the line.
dedicated
Okay.
Probably very close.
to the public
Somebody knocked
after it
those
was
with
given to the town,
fiberglass.
because we just
Yeah.
They get
easement, but
knocked down.
They don't last forever either.
we have
Last
dedicated
forever.
as a street.
Animals tend to knock them down. I mean, I don't know why it's missing.
Snow plows
It's nice to have a
Yeah.
snowplow could have hit it, but not if it- but it's
No,
not-
that does, I
it is
appreciate
not
that.
a-
It's a lot of documents.
It's a
Right.
sign
Right.
saying this is the forest boundary. It's a-
Because one type of surveyorship are monuments, and if that's not a permanent, right,
we have those on both sides of this property
right,
and around the other.
Right.
okay.
Those are what my.
Typical
Right,
amount.
four corners, right, okay. Thanks, Marlo. Yes.
thank-
Okay, that's
Were
pretty
there
good.
other, were there
Just-
other questions?
Hold on 1 second.
Can I
Were
finish
there other
my
questions
questions?
that she asked that I didn't answer? Hi, Natalie, I'm Marlo. Nice to meet you.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Councilman Castillo.
Yes, so I just wanted to, in fact, Natalie, if you have that answered, I'll go ahead and refer back to
Yeah, I'm gonna have to see.
Marlo. Thank you so
The
much.
sign she's talking about is
Yes.
the boundary sign that you see on forest boundaries.
Right,
It's not a forest monument, as in property monument.
right, okay,
Just
that's the
along the
clarification
boundary.
I needed.
The forest gets those, if they hired a surveyor, they're supposed to be within a foot, usually in their contracts,
Right,
of the actual boundary.
okay.
They shot that in 4 years ago.
And I don't know who did it.
Who's the forest?
They have their own cadastral survey, I'm sure they're very close.
The last question that I had was about fire. Somebody had asked about fire road access, maintaining the roads. Can you just
So those are private
please
roads.
speak on that? Okay,
And they will be maintained by the private landowners. The town doesn't have to take care of those. I think
Right.
he was referring to the International Fire Code,
right,
and I believe, what was the dimension? I thought it was 148.
okay. Because you said
Yeah.
150
I
feet.
believe there has to be a turnaround in the National Fire Code, if they're 150 feet or longer.
Okay.
This is less than 150 feet.
Okay.
So I don't know that there's a requirement to have a turnaround, but there will be turnarounds when there's a house there. It's like turning into anybody's driveway.
Right.
The fire truck is gonna probably be able to get turned around.
Okay. Did you have,
I would like to address that.
okay.
Hold on one second. So, sir, would you like to come and address this first, and then we'll
Oh, I
come back to
apologize, I
yeah, that's
forgot.
okay.
Yes.
Emily, are you done?
I think that's the end of my questions.
Okay.
That are
We'll come back to you,
schematics.
sir.
May I just interject? I was just speaking with that man about the water.
Say your name.
Oh, my name is Leslie Parkin.
Thank
I was speaking with this man about the water coming out of the forest. He was saying that of it now being a city road, the water that comes out of the forest because of that big mess they made on the parking lot is going to be at the city's responsibility, not theirs. But where it says in this document that they will put ditches and trailing, the ditches will have endings to them, which would like go into a French drain, no standing waters. But he was saying that it will be your responsibility if the water comes out of the forest, because it'll come across the street that he says is truly owned by you. But this paper says that it is based upon several conditions through the Forest Service.
But why is it any different on this one particular lot versus anybody else that lives over there?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
Why is it different, or why does that apply differently to this one particular lot versus anyone else that lives there?
It wasn't an issue at the time. Nobody brought it up, and until the city went in with the last mayor and plowed out all that vegetation and put in hard pan, caused that water to build up and flow out of that area. That's what caused it.
Okay.
Are you referring to the parking lot, sir?
Yes,
Okay.
that's why I said this is an older picture.
Okay.
If you put the newer picture in, the later one, it will show the great big mess that is all cut out, all the way back and all the way up.
So right up and almost knows the lane, and they go.
And all the water comes out of there. And they have,
That's
cut out.
Yeah, I was just
cut
gonna
out
say,
through
is
here.
that, whose
They had
jurisdiction is that?
Water,
So?
I mean, in a trail through here, and all this has been pushed back and put berms back in here and didn't finish the job. They were supposed to put a discharge lateral to keep all this water that backed up in here would go to the Griest, and there would be berms all along here to keep all that in, and they haven't. But this here lot now that we are dealing with, he's going to be responsible for it because it goes onto his property,
Okay.
where the rest of us, it didn't.
Okay. Thank you so much.
I think that, I don't know, we'll have to do some research on whose responsibility that is to keep the water away from the road.
Well, I was gonna say, it sounds like it would be a problem even
Yes,
with
please.
2 homes.
So, my understanding, and your attorney could maybe decide whether I'm speaking the truth or not, is that you have to keep any that is not historical drainage, any new from impervious surfaces, on your own property. So the National Forest is responsible to keep theirs on their property,
Right.
which is before you get to the easement. They've allowed the town to build a road and maintain a road based on this easement document. You don't have a copy, I can get you copies. And so you get to maintain the road, that's true. They get to be responsible for any water that comes off that parking lot, any new impervious surfaces they've created on the National Forest. They need to keep it on the National Forest. My owner, Mr. Griest, has to keep his on his property. The neighbors to the north need to keep theirs on their property. The neighbors to the east and the west are supposed to keep their waters on theirs. And so many people might need French drains. In this country, and I can have David speak to this from Sunrise, it's so porous, you don't get a lot of standing water in most areas. There are some areas in Star Valley that are clay,
Right.
And they become swimming pools almost, and mosquito problems maybe. But this area is pretty porous. It infiltrates very quickly, just in the sides of the road, in the borrow ditches probably.
Yeah.
And so I don't think there's going to be a great drainage problem. But if it's being caused by the forest, they need to keep it on their own
Yeah,
land,
it
just
sounds
like
like
we
we
have
need-
to keep it off of the forest on our own land.
Yeah, it sounds like
It's
we need to
private.
make a call to the Forest Service, and we'll put that on our list. Somebody put that on our list.
Does that
I know
answer that question?
exactly who we need to call, but.
Because under managing water, it does say this comment is noted, Mr. Griest and any other property owners are not allowed to have their drainage and or runoff encroach on any other properties. Stormwater management is addressed,
Yeah,
just so.
so we can
there was
address
a
that.
response.
If If you want us to talk about the drainage plan, David's here, to how that's going to be handled on site, that's a technical
Yeah.
question.
Right.
I think we're getting in the weeds just a
Yeah.
little bit. Let's, is there any other major concerns that you guys, Councilman Larson, you had said that you might want to ask Marlo a couple more questions?
A few of them were answered, Marlo. You don't, you can sit down. For me,
Yeah, we'll get to him in just one second. I want to see if he has.
no, for me, there's several items going on here that is pushing me to, at the bare minimum, table this. One, council, on your thought.
Oh, I noticed that Christina always does a fabulous job at this, of her reports, and it is brought up in the staff report,
Yes.
consideration of, I think it's 2072 FEE, compatibility with proposed subdivision with adjoining land issues. But I do not see that as being a part of the record, that was discussed or considered in the hearing with planning and zoning. So I think just with
Probably needs
that,
to be talked about.
it needs to go back and have
Yeah.
evidence taken on that.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so,
That would give us an opportunity to hear Mr. Rogers' testimony, basically, on what he wants to bring. I would
Right.
definitely encourage you to forward us all that information that you've accumulated.
Yes, I would love to see that.
I think it needs to come in as part of the record.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
And then we'd have to have time to review it if he's got
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
volumes of it, so.
While we've got you, there were some other legal concerns that were brought up during the hearing.
Mhm.
Are any of them, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I think the main thing that stuck out as far as liability for safety, it's not, I don't think we'd be drugging a lawsuit unless
Right.
we do something completely stupid.
Yep.
Right.
But I think liability comes in, not much as liability, but the potential of having a declaratory judgment against the town if we don't follow the rules, and if we're missing stuff that we're making a decision without evidence being put in on the
Right.
record, then, we certainly
Sure.
have a difficulty.
Yep.
That it may go to district court, and district court says, hey, you didn't get the evidence on this, go back and do it. So let's avoid that and,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and take care of these things.
now,
Mhm.
okay.
Any other
What else did
concerns
you have to
heard?
add, Jim?
No.
Jimmy, anything else?
Just for the interest of everybody here, on my own personal behalf, I will be making a motion to table this so we can do this correct and right. And it's not that this is, in my view, a done deal or a not done deal. I'm happy that everybody's here. It is an issue that, we're dealing with here and in other places, and we're going to continue dealing with it. But I do believe in getting all the evidence. So that's all I have to say.
I agree.
I did have one other thing
Yes.
that I missed is whether or not planning and zoning evaluated the master plan, and is this compatible with the master plan?
The town's master plan? Okay.
Yeah. So, I didn't see that in there either. I think that's under 2207.
Yeah, let's just reference it against the master plan, but I don't know what you're gonna glean from that. We'll just double check that. Sir, would you like to add something to the conversation?
If you'll give me a chance to discuss this with you or share it with you in more detail later,
I can wait. I would
Okay.
prefer to.
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah,
I'd
I
like to see
think,
a
I think we got a deal there. Marlo?
Question?
Yes.
So, just so I understand what Mr. Sanderson just talked about, you're saying that the planning and zoning hearing and meeting, the compatibility of adjacent lots was not discussed or was not
I don't
reported?
see that in the, well, I don't
I
know
know
if
it was discussed, but you're
didn't
saying
come
it
up in the
wasn't
report.
reported in the minutes?
Not reported
Christine
in
was-
the,
Okay. And so you're wanting to go back and make sure we have that discussion with planning and zoning?
I'm
And then
just
the
asking
same way
if we
with the
have
master plan question,
whether it comes into the master plan.
whether it's compatible with the master plan? Okay?
Okay.
Just more food for thought. I mean,
Yeah.
we need to dig
Right.
into that, make sure we're covered on a few of those. I think we've brought up enough
Yeah.
points here from the people in attendance that there's still some outstanding items that we need to get some more information on. And
I did have one thing
Yep.
to read, sorry to interrupt you,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor. So this is from our zoning administrator, Christine Wagner. This is from the Alpine Fire Chief. She just handed this to me. I'll make sure that anybody who would like will go home with a copy. Dear Christine, I have received and reviewed the supplied information regarding the Griest addition to the town of Alpine. Upon review of the advanced plat and the adopted International Fire Code regulations referring to Appendix D, Fire Apparatus Access Road, Section D103, subsection D103.4, it appears that no turnaround is warranted and/or required for this development. The access has been deemed to have a shared driveway. Upon the review of the driveway, it is 147.7 feet in length on the west side and 148.59 feet in length on the east side of the shared driveway easement. It is also noted that the driveway easement is 60 feet in width. So just one question, hopefully ticked. Okay.
And the issue I have there is it said, it has been deemed, it doesn't say who deemed it, and it doesn't address the issue of how requirements to prevent obstructions is going to be enforced. My understanding is from conversation here, it's by some user ordinances, but it also says in the city documents that the town is not in a position and cannot enforce local ordinances.
Okay.
So that means a local resident or a party happens and a bunch of cars parked there, that means somebody that lives there has to go out and tell them to move. And if they don't move, the only options they have is to hire a lawyer and file a lawsuit.
Okay.
And the cars are still there. And if an accident happens and the fire truck can't get in there because it's winter and it's snowing and there's drift and yada, 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 the lawyers are gonna show up and they're gonna start looking, somebody died, they're gonna start looking for somebody to sue. And they're gonna wanna make sure you guys have followed all the rules or they're gonna come after the city.
Okay, so
We'll
that's
definitely
something
make
else
sure-
we
we'll
can look
definitely make
into
sure
as
we're
well.
covered.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll make sure we're covered there.
So, one
Yes.
other, you said there were additional information that you needed, or what is that, so that we can provide it? You stated that before this, Mr. Rogers. You're
So
indicating
we
there's
want to
other
make sure that
information?
we get the information that Ms. Roger has. We want to present
Is
that.
there other information that we need to present in our application?
Compatibility of proposed, well, it's not in the application, but it's the finding, I think, that the P and Z has to make is compatibility of proposed subdivision with adjoining land.
And that's what you talked about, I
Right,
agree.
exactly.
And the master plan.
Evaluation of the master plan.
Okay. So those two, but are there other items of information that?
I don't
need
know
to
if
be
there's anything
brought to you?
outstanding that you need to bring to us. Is there
Not on
anything?
my end, no, you
Okay.
answered them.
Do you guys have any other questions? So, but if there is something that comes up, we'll definitely reach out to you. We'll have planning and zoning reach out to you.
We appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Marlo.
I would entertain a motion to table at this point.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to table and send the application back to P&Z for complete review.
Second.
We have a motion. It's been seconded. Any discussion? I think this is warranted to table it at this point and just make sure we get all the information that we need. And sorry, Christine, but we'll be pushing it back to you. All those in favor of tabling this motion?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion tabled for now.
Could I ask when that would be on the planning and zoning agenda?
That's a great question. What does the agenda look like?
When would you put it back on the agenda for planning and zoning?
Does this warrant a public hearing and doing the whole
Process over
notification
again?
and the whole
Yeah, you have to go through the whole thing again.
So I have to get back to you.
Well, it's not going to be the next meeting. Maybe, we'll just have to figure out.
Probably won't even be,
Yeah.
November.
Yeah, because
I'll be perfectly honest. I've got
it just takes, by statute, we have to give so many days and notification.
Totally understand what the reasons are, I just want to make sure we know what the date is.
Yes.
Potentially won't even happen by the end of the year, but we will.
I'd be surprised at that.
Yeah.
You've got 60 days.
Yeah, it's
more or less.
Christine likes donuts.
Yeah.
I know what Christine.
I would encourage everybody. I would encourage everybody to go to that planning and zoning meeting. Please stay in contact with us. I'm happy to take the emails if you have any questions about dates moving forward. I'd also really encourage you, if you have any feedback about development, especially if you are in favor of low-density development, as one constituent very aptly said, pretend it's not always in your backyard. Pretend it's your neighbor. I try to think like that. Would I want this development abutting up to my property? So I'd really encourage you moving forward. We get a lot of development plans across our desk, and density is something that developers have in mind for Alpine. So please stay involved, stay in contact with your council, with planning and zoning. Show up and voice your opinion, because we really appreciate it. And we will not know how to vote unless you tell us the direction from your feedback. Okay?
So I appreciate everyone coming. You can stay, but
there's more.
This
Wait, there's more.
lots more juicy. Of course, there's always more.
Just for your records? Okay. Come home. Okay. And you have our email addresses to send us
Everybody's gonna leave.
email. We'll have you send it to planning
Mr. Mayor,
and zoning.
can we have a
Well,
5-minute
I'm
break?
assuming. Mo,
Yeah.
what's the protocol for that?
We're
So
going to
the
take a
information
5-minute
he
break.
wants to
You guys can
share.
turn off your microphone.
Okay, that's appropriate. Okay. And her email is planning at Alpine WI. Does that sound right? Do you have access to it up there? Up on the website?
But you are.
If it's email it to me. Yes, it has to be less than 3. Yes, you don't need 2. She's got it. She's got it.
So don't be surprised if somebody comes to you and says either you can or what's up?
I'm not saying that was the best way to do it, that's what they chose. Your last year, you were part of it. Well, I mean, yeah, so. No, not me personally. I was really talking, you know, specifically. Thanks for coming in, and appreciate it. Let's go back and discuss it. It's not the worst.
Since right here,
Look at everything and we can't get a lot.
Okay, well, you started saying.
And it's fair. We didn't really, it didn't get into the minutes as much as it's kind of been I think we discussed it, but it probably wasn't, here's a
Yeah,
question.
would you wouldn't do the hearing, you wouldn't do the public hearing at
When
the
it gets to
zoning
be
hearing.
this kind of complicated,
Do two
we want
hearings.
those kind of findings.
Okay.
And that's what the council is.
6:30.
And it is, the reason it is.
I wonder if I'm gonna be.
They're saying.
JQ. Yes, I think you should say. I don't think you should.
This is compatible.
Yeah.
So, that didn't really say.
Why?
Microphone's back on.
Keep going. Oh, boy.
All right.
You guys can turn your microphones back on.
Actually, I can ask Frank. Frank,
Probably better off having
watching and the audio keeps coming, like every few seconds. Is there any
That's
mind
not
checking and seeing on your end?
Might be the internet.
Okay.
Well,
I mean, he
he
zooms
said
all day long, so he doesn't.
no, it might be something going on here, on our end.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, we have good. We're good.
Let's see if I've heard anything.
Yeah, if somebody else doesn't mind checking, just so we know constituents can actually hear.
Because that's not going to help with our meeting
No.
notes. Okay, so we're going to come out of recess now. Appreciate everyone sticking around. The next action item we have is Mike Hunsaker from Star Valley Medical Center. It doesn't look like Mike's here, but Mr. Cottom's here.
Mike, you look so young.
Thank you. Yes, obviously I'm not Mike Hunsaker.
Dale Cottam, I'm an attorney. For the record, I live in Thane. I have a physical office in Afton, but I have a virtual office in Alpine where most of my Wyoming clients are located or have projects. So, but seriously, Mike Hunsaker was involved in a very serious auto accident. He is going to be okay. He broke several ribs, and I understand some other bones, and he was well enough to text me today, and his assistant tells me that he is going to be all right. But I understand the 2 cars involved in the accident are really mangled, and so we're lucky that he was not injured more seriously. So
best wishes.
you bet. Will do. You betcha. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I don't have the full town council packet, but I trust that my letter is in the packet. Mike and I worked together to write that letter. I don't normally do this, but I would like to read from the letter if that's okay.
Go ahead.
At one point, this is the second paragraph, starting with the second sentence. Star Valley Health intends to upgrade and remodel the building that we're talking about in order to house ambulance and emergency medical personnel and equipment. First responders such as EMTs can be much more effective and will have a greater chance of saving lives in the Alpine community if they are physically located within the town of Alpine. Without the use of this existing building in the ongoing lease, Star Valley Health may have no other choice than to relocate these critical emergency medical services personnel and ambulances to a location south of Etna. And this relocation would add to the response time for emergency treatment and transport to medical facilities. And so I'd really rather not get into, whether there's a breach of the lease, whether it's technical or material or excused or not. I mean, us lawyers spend a lot of time arguing about that, but I'd rather just make sure the record's clear on what Star Valley Health intends to do with that building and how they intend to utilize the ground lease. They were actually waiting. It's vacant now, and one of the reasons it's vacant now is because Star Valley Health has been waiting for the town to complete a third reading of a new ordinance that will authorize overnight use, such as sleeping quarters for EMS personnel, and of course, we would comply with requirements such as sprinkling or anything else that would be needed there. So that is the plan. That is the reason that it is vacant now, but we are happy to do whatever it is you would like us to do to cure the default and retract your notice of default and allow us to continue with the use of the building as we've communicated, Mayor. So that's.
Mr. Cotton, do you know if they intend to, how long would they intend to be in that building again once it was remodeled? Because I know they have plans over at the new location to kind of build this more permanent structure.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I know I have I didn't bring it up here with me, but I know I have the base lease, and it does have some options to extend. I would think that they would probably want to keep their right to extend in that base lease, but I have not heard whether they want to remain there permanently or whether they would eventually relocate those services to their new building.
Do you know if they would be willing to renegotiate the lease?
Well, I do know the payment. Yes, the answer is yes.
Okay.
They certainly are open to different payment terms, and if there's something else about the lease that you would like to renegotiate, that's fine. I mean, the cost of we can come up a fair amount on the rent amount and still be way below what they're paying to house people, in town.
Yeah.
And that's a concern. So yes, they are.
I just want to make sure that I want to make a comment and make sure that you understand the context. Of course, I'm new to this position, and just being an outsider coming and looking at things, and then when I heard that they were renewing the lease for $150, and I was just kind of aghast, and everyone else that was in the audience was aghast as well. And then if you go back and just do some simple math on how many years they've had that benefit, and there's no doubt it is a benefit. In a lot of ways, people would assume that that's subsidizing the hospital, and the citizens of the town of Alpine are subsidizing Star Valley Medical, in my opinion. That's been going on for a very long time. So we're never going to be like made whole, but that's not my purpose. My purpose is just to make sure that we're maximizing the usefulness of that building for the residents of the town of Alpine. So I would definitely be interested in working with you and Mr. Hunsaker when he's up and going about, I'd like to see a plan and figure out, kind of just look at the lease again and see if we can figure out a plan going forward that eventually has, I don't know if we need to figure out what the end game is, or just figure out what the plan is and model something, whether it's 2 years, 4 years, 10 years, whatever we decide would be the time frame that we want to kind of hold that aside. I think that's fine. We just need to just make sure there's a plan for that building that doesn't go on forever.
Yeah, Mayor, I think that's more than fair. I mean, the lease describes kind of a month-to-month situation. I mean, it talks about what goes on month to month, but it doesn't really speak to what happens long-term, and I think that would be a good improvement to the lease, and we're absolutely open to an addition, an increased rent payment. Your point about, the appearance of a subsidy is well taken. Understood.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything for Mr. Cottam? At this point, I don't think we intended to have a motion or cast a vote or anything at this point, but unless somebody has something else they would like to offer up. But at this point, I appreciate you coming in and speaking to this, and sorry to hear about Mr. Hunsaker. We'll look forward to conversations over the coming weeks.
Okay. Mayor, could we consider, or can we come away from this understanding that the town has retracted its notice of default? Obviously, it could issue another one in the future, but can we understand that you've retracted the notice of default and we don't need to bring up, an occupational therapist there and open the doors and call it a clinic, put a banner up there, clinic open, or anything? I mean, seriously, when we get a letter like this is what we have to evaluate that as an option. We seriously thinking about that.
I think our intention is to talk about that in the executive session.
Absolutely.
So since
Understood.
It's a legal matter,
Yep.
that's what I was planning on doing. So
Very good.
If that's all right with you, then we'll just be in touch with you after the meeting.
Very good.
We'll text you later tonight if that's all right.
Absolutely.
I was just
Certainly.
thinking about that.
Certainly respect.
Monica, can you text Dale? Yeah, right.
Certainly respect that, Mayor. Thank you very much.
Jim, are you fine with that?
I'm fine with that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
for
you so
coming.
much.
I'm sorry we kept you so long.
No, it's fine. I was here. I was here.
Oh.
I was here for four. I was coming for four things, and now one of them got bumped. So now I'm here for three things. The third one's up next, I think. So, so I'll wait till that's introduced, Mayor.
Okay. Let's work down the list here. Okay, so next is annexation petition for the Hafiz subdivision. Let me just pull that up real quick.
Can you correct something in there?
In the application?
No, on your item C, it's not Zion subdivision parcel.
Okay, so that's what I was wondering. It excludes that, correct? Okay.
The petition was amended.
Yes, it does.
I believe it's, Hafiz's property has nothing to do with
If
that.
you look at the petition.
No, we sent in a revised one.
Oh, I didn't get that one. I'm so
It's
sorry.
been a couple couple of weeks.
Okay, oh goodness.
That's the only one I have.
Oh, I agree. This was the first one that was incorrect.
Okay.
Made out by the owner. So we sent a revised one. This isn't annexing any of Xylem.
Well, should we wait until that's
I think we're
corrected
probably
then?
gonna have to table
Yeah.
that then.
Yeah.
Why is that?
You
So
don't
it's
have
correct.
the proper.
We can't pass a resolution without the correct
I
verbiage.
think the
I don't have the
advertising was
application.
correct.
I don't have
I
the
think you just have it mislabeled here.
Because I see it on our resolution 2023-516 as well, which means that needs to be revised. And that needs to be
could
corrected.
amended in the first or second reading. I mean, that's not.
No, it's a resolution, not an ordinance.
But it still can be amended. Any resolution, I think, I've seen amended. to be
Jim, could we-
corrected.
Well, by amending it, are we substantially changing the contents of the notice?
I'm bringing it. Okay. The annexation petition that I was given, it took the language directly from that. So, and this is what he's referring to that's incorrect. He says her ad is correct, so there's her ad.
But the map that was done, the exhibit that was done is correct. And I think.
Because we
your
could also
ad is-
strike that, couldn't we?
Yeah, we could strike that, and, I mean, it's,
What's incorrect
is
is
the
the
map,
reference
is
to
the
Xylem.
map and it's just the name?
Correct.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah,
parcel
but
B
the-
at one time.
right,
It's never
but-
been part of Xylem subdivision.
But what I'm saying is that everybody who's affected by this has noticed that this is what's
That's-
going to be
That's what we had.
brought into the town. It's
So,
just the
so
name.
no, so this resolution is just to say that the application is submitted.
Right.
It is complete, and that we're scheduling a hearing.
Okay.
Okay, but you can amend it to take
Okay.
off, yeah, that's.
Okay.
Yeah, you're fine. You don't have to read
Perfect.
all that.
Thank you, Jim.
We're gonna have to redo things, I think. If you don't have the latest petition,
I'll get it,
I'm-
I bet I'll get it tomorrow.
no, you should have it in your email already.
Yeah, I think we have
I
it.
think
We
we
have
sent
the
it on.
technology. I think we just need to make sure we grab
Sent it
it.
at least 2 weeks ago.
You didn't-
Okay.
But I did not receive it. It was not emailed to me. It was emailed to someone else, and this is what I received.
Okay.
I'll find out.
All right, so it sounds like
Okay.
we could proceed, but we would need to adjust the heading and I guess the description in the resolution. Does anyone have any questions on that? Is everyone fine with that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Do we have a motion?
Motion for approval of resolution number 2023-516, annexation petition for Hafiz and striking the Xylan subdivision parcel lot B portion of the resolution.
Second.
We have a motion, it's been seconded. Just to clarify, do we have to also strike the verbiage in the
Oh, in
whereas in the
whereas.
first paragraph? Or just,
Yeah, it needs to, let me see that again.
Yeah, it's mentioned twice.
Yeah, you'll need to fix that.
okay, we have a motion, it's been seconded. Do we have an amendment to the resolution?
Make a motion to amend previous motion to also strike on, is it more than whereas?
No, I believe it's just there.
Okay. So from the resolution number 2023-516, quote, whereas on the 8th day of September 2023, a petition for annexation of eligible territory has been filed with the deputy clerk of the town of Alpine by Rahman Aviz, Xylan subdivision parcel dash lot B. We're amending to strike the Xylan subdivision parcel lot B from that sentence.
Second.
We have a motion, it's been seconded. Any discussion?
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
just a couple things for the record. if you
Yes.
don't mind. Dale Cottam again. So I represent Mr. Hafiz. He's the owner of the parcel to be annexed. I didn't prepare the annexation petition. There is some interest in the property by someone else, and you'll hear about, or maybe you already have. So there's kind of a couple of cooks in the kitchen.
okay.
And so we'll certainly, Marlo and I will certainly do our best to kind of keep everybody on the, on script here. But I represent the current landowner annexing the property. But it's kind of a group effort at this point.
Right. And I think it's time sensitive, and we're aware of that. And so I appreciate you guys suggesting that we move forward. We're doing everything in accordance with the statute, so I have no problem with that. I would say, I really appreciate this coming now. It sounds like the town of Alpine has wanted this for a really long time, so we're happy that this is coming in. And I know you don't represent the other
Interested
party.
person,
Yes.
right? Uh-huh.
But I know they're working diligently to get us plans and everything, but just want to make sure, I can't wait to see those and see how that.
It's coming along.
It's coming along.
It's coming along.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else to add?
No, Mayor, that was it. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion, it's been seconded regarding the amendment to the motion. All those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
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 Aye. All right, so back to the original motion and resolution. Is there any questions regarding this resolution? Okay, all those in favor of resolution number 2023-516, a resolution certifying the submission of an annexation petition by Rehman Hafiz in accordance with WS-5-1-403, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, moving down the list, this is regarding the ordinance 2023-08. This is developer reimbursement for infrastructure. This is third reading. This is an ordinance that was put in place last year. I think nobody has any issues with this. Do we have a motion on the table?
Motion for approval of ordinance number 2023-08 on the third reading, amendment to ordinance number 298, 2022-16, developer reimbursement for infrastructure.
Second.
There's been a motion, it's been seconded. Which one are you looking at? Is it, you said -08, is that right?
It
Monica?
is,
Okay.
It is.
Okay. Any discussion?
This will just be moving 5 years to 10 years.
Yes.
Correct. Yep, that is the only change. Any other discussion?
No.
All those in favor of ordinance 2023-08, ordinance amending the Town of Alpine ordinance 298, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, ordinance carries.
Great.
Moving down the line here. Seeking approval of ordinance number 2023-03 on third reading. This is the Land Use Development Code. I think that, this is my opinion, but I would like to set up a work session where we go line item by line item on this Land Use Development Code and the changes that are being recommended. I don't feel like we have had enough time to take it all in and understand and ask questions to the people. Is everyone in agreement?
Yes.
Yep. We need to put it on the docket though for table.
I think we need to table it and then,
But we need to bring it, make a motion for approval of ordinance number 2023-03 on third reading, repeal and replace ordinance 257 LUDC.
we have a motion, it's been seconded. Do we have,
Now we
do
can
we,
discuss.
do we have
Oh,
to,
yeah.
you have to have the motion on the table first and then you table it? Okay. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to table this.
Councilman Larson, do you have I would entertain a motion to table.
which one is this one for? Is, for the change of the LEDC, which?
All of them.
All of the above.
So,
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
I've already apologized profusely to Christine.
no.
I'll apologize
it's
to you
just that
too.
there are some things coming out, I think some of it has to do with
Oh.
storage.
Okay.
Okay, so just so you know, I think we have, I've had this discussion with
I just
Christine,
wanna make sure,
yeah. Anything that is in the works, we've notified them that they need to be
In.
looking at this,
Okay,
and this
compliance
is
with-
coming.
Okay.
At this point, I do understand the concern, but I think the bigger issue is that we all feel comfortable with everything that we're changing, because we've already done 2 readings, and I don't want to redo this again, like in the spring, so I want to kind of knock it out of the park. We're always going to be updating this, and we're actually going to make some changes where, like, we're going to pull a few things out, I think eventually, and they'll be their own ordinance. So, like the lighting, we've talked about that tonight, but,
There were a few things in some of these that, because we went through all of this line item by line item at the last meeting.
yeah,
And there were a few things that there were some things that we pulled out because we wanted to have that same discussion like with the architectural review committee and
Yep.
whatnot. We pulled that stuff out, but the other stuff was stuff that, was time constrained.
yeah.
But if you've already talked with Christine, I'm out.
Yeah, and I think our time frame would be, at your next meeting, or, let's see, we would have the, work session, the
It's going to
first
be
week,
on November 7th?
November 7th, and then they will have their, planning and zoning, and then,
And then we'll be back.
we'll be back in session,
On the
November 21st or 22nd, whatever it is, and then,
Just want to make sure,
yeah,
So we actually wouldn't be delaying it.
only a month.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we won't miss, just so I'm clear, we won't miss anything by.
The only thing we risk is someone bringing a full set of plans that need to come in and get stamped. And if they come in at this point with the 2%, I don't know what to say, but that's a little.
That's a Jim question.
That's a little
That's
disingenuous.
a Jim question. What do you say?
Well, they come in under the current ordinance.
Right.
Yeah, there's not much we can do about it, but, yeah.
Okay.
But if there's a major, construction project going on that doesn't know that we're moving to 20% snow storage,
But that's why a lot of folks want to try to push it now. So we don't-
Okay. Right.
I don't know how
Is
they're.
that, wait,
That-
so
that's just
time,
the devil's
Can't you make
advocate.
it as a condition of approval on
Yeah, you
any
could do
project
that.
that comes up before you or the planning and zoning, they just make it a condition of approval that it's gonna be according to the new rules,
It's-
20%.
It seems easy to me, but,
It's part of the design of the structure and what you're gonna do on that lot, so they have to know that prior to going into this.
that's what I agree with, Dan, for
Okay.
sure. That they've been planning this, because
Right.
we've been talking about this for 6 months or more.
right,
So I think we're probably safe from that standpoint, but I agree, Marla, we could probably,
We could hedge our bets with that.
They should know that that's what your intention is, but if it's not in an ordinance, you can put conditions of approval of anything on as a town council.
okay,
And that would be the easy way I would see to solve it. I agree with this gentleman. Yeah, let them know, so they know
Yeah.
upfront what they gotta design.
yeah,
Because there isn't anything actually in the, is there a 2% right now?
yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Jim, are you fine with that?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor of tabling, third reading, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Do we need clarification on what we're tabling? Okay, all those in favor of tabling, I've switched it, so I didn't, that's why I was balking. What is the ordinance number?
The ordinance number 2023-03.
Okay, all those in favor of tabling ordinance number 2023-03, say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, so motion, ordinance is tabled for now, and then it'll go back to planning and zoning, and we'll have the work session, and hopefully we'll have all of our answers. Yeah.
And how do we tackle the condition of?
If it comes, yeah, I mean, planning and zoning, I'm sure could make a conditional approval as well.
Okay,
So,
perfect.
but, yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody, for that one. Let's see. do we have any bids on
not.
the medicine wagon?
Did not.
$1.
Well, I have one lady email me, but I did not get a bid.
$1.
Nice try, Mr. Larson.
All right, $1.50.
We needed to
So,
receive
Jim-
that bid.
So, Jim, I did put a minimum because we had a lot of interest and I was trying to get what they paid for it. So now that that has not happened, how shall I proceed? $2,000. It was in the ad, but that's what they paid for it,
Okay.
so.
And you didn't get a bid that was above the minimum? Then
We didn't
reject-
receive a bid at all.
Yeah, you reject all bids and redo it, just open it
Just
up.
do it with,
Yep.
with nothing on it.
Yep.
Okay,
$1.
will do.
Well, I mean, it's property worth over $500, so I'm still saying it's.
Yeah.
Should we put a minimum bid then?
I think you should lower it to 500.
Okay.
Sorry,
Come on, man.
I'm trying to.
Which is,
People like.
it's kind of interesting that we didn't receive any, because I know we had 2 interested
We had
parties.
2 very interested, but she did email me, but she's got a whole plan for it, and it's just not coming together in the way she thought. So, yeah.
Okay.
So maybe
Bless
if the
you.
price is lower, maybe
Yeah,
then it'll work out.
might work out.
Okay, next is Resolution 2023-518, pretreatment plant capital lease. Adam Clerk, do you want to give
I
us?
must not have made a copy. I
I was
must
gonna
not have
say,
printed this.
I didn't see anything. Am I looking in the wrong?
I didn't print this. Where is
I'll try to explain for everyone
Let me go grab it.
in attendance and
Thank you, Monica.
at
I
home.
know, I updated it yesterday.
The reason for this is, I like to say that the pretreatment plant, we're not over budget, we're underfunded. So, as a condition of our grant through the Wyoming Business Council, we actually have to prove that we have the funding for the entire project before they will release any funds to us. So, this is essential. We can't take out a loan, so to speak, but we, because of our borrowing limit, but we can take out a lease. It would be a 20-year lease, and at the end, we pay $1 and we own the building. So we currently have a lease on the shop down there, and this is the best way that we see to get us over the hump. And we should anticipate, we got approved by one of the local banks to go up to $1 million for the lease. We don't anticipate having to utilize the whole $1 million, but Monica's still looking at all of that. What we don't want to do is ask for 500 and then have to go and redo this here soon if we happen to go over that. So we kind of have a strategy. It sounds like Monica is
I'm sorry,
printing it out.
I drafted it in a resolution file and I didn't move it to the meeting file.
Mr. Mayor, is there
Yes, sir.
an opportunity for this town to do a mini bond? 5%, sell it to the public?
I don't know about that. That's something,
Big process to go through.
that's, I think there was some talk about that last year. And we discussed that as a town in the past, and it sounds like it's very involved and it's probably
It is, but
unlikely
there are
to
people that do it.
Yeah.
There are people that will, you know, you can write it and fund it.
In my experience, you have to pay a,
Election.
It's an option, but it's not well received by the
Yeah.
general public.
Sure, but those are people who don't invest. There are plenty of people here with capital who could do it in a day.
yeah,
It's the election process that you have to do in order to get to the bond that you're not gonna get the approval for.
yeah, there's a whole process that we've talked about in the past, and it's not that easy. This is by far the easiest solution. For other town matters coming down the pipe, that may be an option down the road, but for right now, this is gotta be the easiest. Monica, do you want to discuss real quick? I gave him a little bit of background, but the specifics on the lease.
Yeah, and so I did reach out to multiple financial institutions. One was just incredibly helpful, but they couldn't meet the rate. I do have another one who's still trying to investigate, so I did remove the name of the bank, because in all fairness, if they come in at less than 5.145, that's who we'll go with. So essentially, though, the Bank of Star Valley, they have been very generous to the town of Alpine, and I'm sure to all governments in the valley. They're the only really truly local bank, and with a local decision maker who can make these decisions. Although the other banks are wonderful banks and have wonderful employees, that lack of being local, it means there's more rules.
Right.
You know, and it's a shame, because it really limits what they can do for somebody like us. So what they're doing is they're tying it to the Wall Street Journal 5-year lending rate. So it will be that plus 0.75, which is an incredibly generous rate. It would be very difficult to get that.
And it's a 20-year lease?
Correct.
Yeah. And what was our payment on that?
Around
If it was
a little over
million?
$6,000. If we take the $1 million, I'm not 100% of it. I'm saying up to $1 million. I still think there's some additional conversations that have to happen. And as these things come in, I don't want to borrow something we don't need. Clearly, if we borrow it, we don't need it, we can pay it down. But it does increase our payment. You know, once you borrow it, then your payment stays the same and becomes a process to get your payment.
We're also going to be discussing with Pure Madness Group about, in Melvin, about how, talking about contracts and all this stuff, and who's responsible for paying their portion on the pretreatment plant.
And how that gets managed over the life of this pretreatment facility. So we have a really good working relationship with them, and I think it's all gonna be good, but those details aren't worked out. So I just want a little bit of flexibility while we work through, do the application and all that, and then before we get that money,
We also have the cash on hand right now, but we don't want to make ourselves cash poor. So if we've got this opportunity, I think we need to jump on it. So
yeah, and there's other things. I mean, we have problem with the generator at the wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah.
I mean, we cannot put ourselves in a financial position where if something happens that we're like, I don't know how we pay for it. So this is about just being able to provide a longer-term solution. And maybe, because the truth is, if we spend all our cash, we're going to have to raise rates significantly to rebuild that cash. And my plan is to find a way to not have to do that. If we can push it out over 20 years, then it gives us some flexibility as we look at how we pay for this over the long haul.
Right. Anyone have any concerns? Do we have a motion on the table?
Motion for approval of resolution 2023-518 pretreatment plant capital lease, and authorizing Mayor Green to sign.
Second.
We have a motion, it's been seconded. Any further discussion? Jim, obviously you're fine with this?
Yes.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor of resolution 2023-518, authorizing Mayor Green on behalf of the town of Alpine to execute a capital lease agreement, say aye.
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 Aye. All right, resolution carries. At this point, our plan is to go into executive session, so I would entertain a motion for that.
Motion to adjourn regular session and go into executive session after a 5-minute break.
Second.
There's been a motion, it's been seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of going into an executive session with a 5-minute break, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thanks, everybody. You guys can turn off the mics.